Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning Board, Glens City Planning Board meeting of October 1st. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the September 3rd, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Start with Mr. Landry. Do you have anything to comment?
No.
Anything regarding the September Planning Board meeting?
No, I will not have to say that was
Any comments on the minutes? Okay. Then I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the September 3rd, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Second? Second. Okay. Approved. We're going to start with some old business. The first item on the agenda for old business is the architecture review for Margaret Gerard, commonly known as 109 and 115 and 117 Warren Street, seeking planning board review and approval for new construction of a mixed-use commercial rental space.
Good evening. For your records, my name is Ethan Hall. I'm the principal with Brzezinski Hall Architecture. Here tonight with Joe Lucci, the owner of Foothills Builders. This is the project, the Lofts on Warren. It's been on this board for a number of months now. We came in and did a preliminary sketch plan with you April, I think. We got tied up in phase 2 environmental, and I'll let Joe speak to that. A couple other things that were going on with financing. We just wanted to bring you up to date. We know that we have to fill out a new application. I spoke with PJ earlier. We are going to withdraw this application, fill out a new one for next month so that we can come back and do this because the project has changed fairly significantly. So I'll let Joe talk about the phase 2 environmental that they went through.
Over the summer we had a phase 1 done and then subsequently a phase 2, just clearing up any environmental concerns that the bank would have. We're on the tail end of that, so that was our delay during the summer. Additionally, we found out over the summer we were not going to receive the restore grant we applied for. So from a financial standpoint, the scale of the project that we initially were hoping to complete was shrunk down to what we're about to present tonight.
So just kind of bring you up to speed with where we are. The existing lot, everybody's familiar with, is on Warren Street. It's where Town and Country Chrysler used to be. There is a building that's here now that's being used by Gerard's Landscaping. There's another building in the back that's kind of just vacant. It's just sitting back there. The intent is that both of those buildings will come down. We've been to the zoning board. We had originally gotten a height variance for the overall height of the building, and we got a couple of area variances. The footprint of the building really hasn't changed, so our area variances won't change based on that. The height variance goes away because we've gone from 4 stories with a roof, a flat roof, down to 3 stories, all residential. So the layout of the building basically is still the L-shaped building. We've got the parking in the back the way we had it before. Based on number of apartments, we're down to 69 apartments. So we're required to have 104 spaces. The layout that you see here provides 106 spaces. Studio A is currently updating their site plan to show all the stormwater management and those types of things. But we've got everything on the site, so the only variance that will remain is that side yard setback, and that's to this side over here where it was before. As we said, the building changed a little bit. The plans that I just dropped to you there kind of show the building footprint. It's all apartments. We do have on the first floor, we have 3,000 square feet set aside on this front corner up here that can be set aside as commercial space, commercial leasable space. The size of the units that are there would allow us to put 4 apartments there. That is part of our original calculation, and Joe's still going back and forth a little bit about whether we want to do a little bit of commercial up there. The lending institutions don't like to give out loans based on commercial rentable space because, as we all know, that's really not something that people are looking for right now. So we've looked at it as doing it as all residential. The setback from the street is significantly farther than what the building next door is. Originally, we had this as all pavement or as concrete surface when we were looking at doing that as either restaurant space or some kind of commercial space. Because we're doing this as residential, that will all be green space. So from the sidewalk to the building now, with the exception of the main entry, will be lawn and planted space. So our permeability goes up from what we had shown you originally. Beyond that are the 2 floor plans for the second and third floors. Again, these units all stack all the way up. It's a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom units. The 2 bedroom units are significantly larger and are set on the ends of the buildings, and then the 1 bedrooms kind of work their way through the building. The front facade that will face Warren Street, we tried to keep it as close to what we had shown you originally, but because this building now changes and drops in size, does not have a flat roof anymore, it'll have a peaked roof. We've done it with hips. We've tried to put some facade treatments on there to kind of mimic what we had done before, and we have kept the main, the brick on the main entry element, the brick all on the first floor facing Warren Street, and then we'll have a mix of different siding types from there up to kind of break up the scale of the building.
No more roof terrace.
No more roof terrace. That was an expensive thing that went away when the funding changed. And outside of that, the rest of the elevations are in the package. It's pretty much the same as it was. It's just instead of being a flat roof building, it now has a peak to it.
Can you tell me about the phase 1 environmental? Was that because it was the car dealership previously?
Yes. There's just a couple of questions of some tanks that hadn't been closed out, so we did a little bit more investigation on those and got that all cleared out.
The tanks that were shown, I think, are filled with lean concrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were decommissioned and they are filled, so those can be removed.
When you do your new application, are you able to provide the board with that documentation?
With the phase 2? I think the phase 2 has been closed out. So
Yeah.
we can. Yeah.
Just so we
Yeah.
know that it's cleaned up or.
Sure.
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
helpful, I think, for the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to withdraw the site plan and the architectural review?
That were submitted previously,
Yeah.
just because it was submitted as a 4-story building with a flat roof. It's
That
a
makes sense.
different project now, so we'll pull that back. I talked with PJ earlier. We'll get an updated application for both site plan and architectural review, and we'll present them on the 9th to PJ's office, so we're here for November.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit.
It was when we looked at the funding and not getting the grant, I mean, it was a $2 million grant that they were looking for, so when that didn't happen, it kind of changed the bottom line a little bit.
I would have liked to see that commercial area pushed out a little more, but it's not going to rent just for a lot of commercial vacant. It doesn't make sense, I understand.
Look at the location, I think more people will traffic from this building to the circle than vice versa.
Then you do have the option if you want on those units down there.
Yeah, that first floor space is still available if.
No more storage either.
No.
Any other questions?
Also, before, you were gonna have like a phase 1 of the building on Warren, and then phase 2 was gonna be the on the back. Is it still that way here?
Our intention now would be to do it all as one.
Do it all as one building. Yeah, we talked about that. Trying to do it once it's rented up would be a challenge. So the intent now would be to do the whole thing all at once.
I don't, I mean, I'm taking the new design and I understand that just by necessity, it's a different kind of building now.
We're-
Not the same footprint.
Yeah, we're working on the colored renderings now. Joe gave me some suggestions for colors. Once we saw them on paper, we decided that those weren't the right colors.
Back to the drawing board.
So we're reworking on colors.
Is that brick? Is there brick on it?
Yes.
There is, the facade on the front doesn't really change from what we had, other than it was 4 stories full before, and now it's 3 stories, and we brought it down. But again, this area that's in this shade here is all brick. We do have the stone below that to indicate the foundation space. And then from there up, it's a mix of vertical siding with flat and paneled siding, picture framed around the windows and things like that.
Like you did on,
Main Street.
Main Street.
Very similar.
Yeah,
very
similar
similar
materials,
similar
maybe a little
materials.
different pattern.
very nice.
Thank you.
If you do end up with commercial on the ground floor, is parking going to be an issue?
Well, no, I mean, the space would, again, be shared space, shared parking. And those areas that we have are set aside at 1.5 spaces per apartment unit. So we've got enough parking there to cover the 3,000 square feet that if it became
And
office
on street
space.
there's.
And there's on-street parking right there on Warren Street on both sides, so.
Have any other questions?
Good. So we'll fill out the new application and we'll have it back to you for next month.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, he's with you.
Just, okay, so we're going to
Yeah, yeah,
Just
so-
up to date, just update us on what's going on.
Yeah, the minutes will reflect that we're withdrawing that
Thank you.
application.
Thank you.
We're putting it on.
Next on the, yes. Next on the agenda, old business is sketch plan review for the Washington Square project. Commonly known as 10, 12, 16 Harlem Street, 13 East Notre Dame Street, 399, 91, and 369 West Street, seeking the planning board sketch plan review.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For the record, I'm John Lapper with Ethan Hall, of course, and Tom Center, project engineer. So I'm here in a dual capacity as one of the members of Washington Street Development who is selling the property and representing Chris for land use approvals. So since the project was presented at the August meeting, based upon primarily public comments, the project has been changed. It's been reduced in size and scope. The number of apartments has gone from 60 to 54, and that allows it to be constructed on all of the land that is properly zoned so that we don't need to ask for a rezoning of the two parcels, the two out parcels. In addition, there are no area variances required anymore, so it's site plan review and architectural review from this board. And I think most importantly, based upon the comments on the architecture, Ethan has completely redesigned that to something that we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on, that mirrors the building that's being taken down and brick, and just what people are telling us is a very attractive change. So the buildings that are there are nothing special and in need of demolition. My partners and I acquired the parcels around us when they became available with the idea that ultimately they would be redeveloped. One of the buildings that was a former office building has been vacant for a number of years, and the two buildings that have been cut up into apartments just have a few tenants at this point. So we've been waiting for the right person to come along to make us an offer.
Fans just went on, can't hear anything.
The AC just kicked out if you don't. Okay.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
that's about it for me, just that we think that the site needs to be redeveloped, and that what's being done now is trying to be sensitive to the comments of what people have been saying. So Ethan can go through the revised plans.
Thank you.
So I'll go through the plans with you here. The first drawing that we have up is the existing building layout, the existing site plans for edification. Harlem Street here, Washington Street, and Glen. This is Bartlett Pond's current office. 391 or 399, 395 and 391 Glen Street, the two buildings that would come down, and the existing yellow one-story office building that would come down as well. So these are the three buildings that would come down. The zone line, the change in zone, comes from this parcel. These two parcels are zoned GC1. From here back, this is RC or R1C. That line comes across here, up across there, and then comes over to Harlem Street. So everything on this side is an R1C. This parcel and this parcel were the two that were R1C that we were originally showing on our map. We have taken those out of the equation, so there's no development on those lots. We've left that lot and that lot alone. We meet all of our setbacks based on that. We still show the building up here at the front, 391 Glen. We've rearranged the parking so that there's no access going back out to East Notre Dame Street. All of our access comes off of Washington or off from Glen Street. The building that runs along Harlem, again, is still an L-shaped building. We lost all of the apartments in that unit to draw this back so that we're not on this lot anymore. We still meet all the required setbacks from Harlem Street and from Washington. We moved the building up front. We had it originally set so that it was back from Glen Street slightly, farther back than what it was, than what the existing ones are. We've moved the building farther back so that it's within the setbacks, and we set it so that the side yard setback is met. Currently, the existing building that's on that north side is actually 6 inches over the property line. The existing building is coming down. So we will be increasing that from a -6 to a +50 to meet that setback. The building plans, I believe you have in your package. I can go through them real quick. Those really haven't changed. The layouts are the same. They're all one-bedroom apartments. Elevator in the middle, entries from both Glen Street and from the parking lot side. All of the units have balconies on them that are covered. The ones that face Glen Street are the ones that we adapted. That's the front that now faces Glen Street. We worked very hard to get the look, the Victorian look of this. We matched the front balconies to match the balcony on the existing house. We've used some of the same treatments. Again, it's all brick on the front. We've used lineals and water tables underneath the windows. We've used the same standing seam roof that's on the front of this building. We've matched the color of the roof to the color of this roof, and we've used a stone granite on the bottom to match the stone granite on the bottom of this building. So the colors all basically match what's there. One of the comments that we heard was regarding the place next door. We're in the process of putting together a street view that shows the height of Bartlett Pontiff versus this building versus the building next door to it. The other building in the back, again, really isn't not a lot different from what we had talked about previously, just the number of units have dropped. You will notice on the site plan, the one thing that has dropped out of this site plan by doing this, we had originally had a pavilion and we also had a rec building. Just based on space and squeezing things down, we don't have space for those anymore, so those have come out of the property. Our permeability is at what's required. The shared parking that is shown is enough for both the law office and for the units. So we do meet those. And then the last drawing that you have in your package is the colored rendering of the building that will be facing Harlem Street and Washington. Again, we've tried to mimic the same colors to kind of keep this as the same look as the one that's on Glen Street.
Access and parking on Washington is the change, right?
Correct. Currently, it comes off of Harlem Street.
Right.
The access is off of Harlem. We are taking that traffic off Harlem Street and putting it onto the main artery, which is Washington Street. Our access point has a left and right out and a one-way in. So it's a 32-foot curb cut here, so that traffic can turn both left and right coming out of the parking lot and come in on that same side and then going out onto Glen Street. That's the existing.
There's no change.
No change to that one at all. Correct.
Do you have plans at this time for the property to the north that was originally going to be?
These two?
No, to the right, yeah, that one.
This one and this one?
Yeah.
But what's there? The house is there?
Yeah.
They're just gonna stay?
Yeah. It's zoned residential. At some point, Chris may decide to put a single-family residence there. That's what it's zoned for. That's something down the road, but we've taken that right out of the equation for this particular project.
Should I go right after these?
No. So I think it's a lot more appropriate to mimic, I first pass at, and I'll start with the building on Glen Street, the first pass sort of architecturally mimicked more the law offices, and it makes a lot more sense to mimic the building that was there. And yes, I think it would be helpful for the board to see just block elevation so everybody understands the scale of it.
Sure.
And I think it's helpful that that building is pulled inside of all the setbacks because the scale of that building is large, so it's pulled back from the street and it gives a little bit more breathing space between that building and the neighbors and 405, 403. The white decorative trim, are you thinking FIPON? I'm thinking longevity, I'm wondering longevity.
He's actually been talking to somebody to do them out of metal,
Oh,
that
okay.
they can powder coat.
Interesting.
And then they don't have to worry about painting them. He's talked to Roselle, I think, about doing the round part out of rolled steel so that they can get them done in powder coated. Keep them up there.
Ethan, I know we have a lot of people really interested, and I sat in here for a meeting last week. Please try to use the microphone so they can hear.
Sure.
Okay, just.
If anybody can't hear me, let me know and I'll speak louder.
Thank you. Everybody.
You can't see and
I try and project as best I can. So this is the west elevation facing Glen Street, the existing building, and the new building, showing the new arches that are going on the front balconies. We've mimicked all of the same colors and the same pieces here. There's some extra ones here, and I can hand those around if you'd like.
Nina, did you have anything else?
Yes, so I think the reduction in the number of units is helpful, just, there was a concern of the overall density and kind of largeness of the project.
Yes.
I think it's positive that the parcel at East Notre Dame is no longer going to be proposed as a driveway
Yes.
access, because that's such a quiet and narrow street, so it sort of holds the density towards
Absolutely.
Glen Street in Washington.
Mhm.
I asked you what was happening with the parcels to the north, they're going to sit there. I know that there are some apartments right now on East Notre Dame that informally have been parking in the lot there and don't have their own off-street parking. Are they just going to be able to continue to use those spots?
So we've let them use those spots because that was a former building that was taken down on that site and we haven't been using it. That'll be up to Chris in the future what he wants to do with that. I mean, like Ethan said, I wouldn't be surprised if we want to build a residence on both of those lots in the future, but so those spots eventually probably will be available.
I don't know what the precedent is in the city for residences that end up with no off-street parking, so just cross that bridge.
Yeah, like, the parking requirements are the responsibility of the parcel owner. So if you have a rental in an area that requires 2 spots or a spot and a half, it is the owner of that parcel renting those units out's responsibility to make sure they have that requirement.
That's the answer. Okay. In your site plan, you show a lot of street trees, which I think will be very helpful. So are those are going to be planted by the developer?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I think fencing along the entire north of the property line will be very important.
Yes. That's shown on the site plan as well. There will be a separation fence, privacy fence between this property and the adjoining properties.
All the way along, all the way, yeah.
All the way along the north side. It will wrap around. Flip this over here again. So the fencing line will run from the front back where our setback is on Glen Street, run along this property line, come all the way back to the area where we have our dumpster shown. The dumpster will have an enclosure around it. The fence will then wrap around that and then come all the way down on this side. Right now we're talking about what we need to do here to allow, this is green space. right now. So we're gonna talk about where we're gonna stop that fence, and perhaps it comes and wraps around and comes back to the corner of the building there. I think as a security measure, that's probably the best spot to exit.
But you don't need that green space for this project.
No, we've taken that out. Yep.
So if you want to fence it, cut it off, you can.
Yes.
And that's green space on Harlem Street in front of the units.
This is all, yes, this whole space is all green space across here. He does intend to put, similar to what he's done on the other side, to put a fence with plantings along there, just to separate the sidewalk from the space that's on the apartment side.
You didn't show in any of your renderings, any kind of mechanical units?
So as Chris talked about when he was here last time, these units are gonna wind up being solid units, solid state units that all, he can feed, I think he said he can feed 12 apartments off of one compressor. It's not like the ones that he's got on the current
Not
building,
individual
there's one
units.
compressor for one apartment.
Right.
So these are much higher efficiency units. He's talking with National Grid about those right now. Heat and air conditioning will be included as part of the rent.
So where will those units be located?
More than likely, they're gonna be back in this area right here for this unit. For these units, we're probably gonna stack them on the ends here, just so that they can be fed. They have a 75-foot run that they can make, so we'll stack them where they're hidden and they're behind
So
something.
not visible from the street.
Correct.
And
Landscape.
even if they were, you could put screening
We'll,
on it.
yeah,
Like you did
but
on-
similar to the Washington Street that he did now. This area back here would be facing the parking lot. This is the back side of that building, not along Harlem Street, they'd be back here. And we have a fairly large mechanical room on the first floor for this building where all of our electrical's coming up. For this building, all of our electrical's coming up on this back side. The electricity is fed in from this direction. It doesn't come off from Glen, or it doesn't come off from Washington or Harlem. It's coming in this way. The pole back here will drop down off from that and go to the transformer from there.
Are they all electric or is it natural gas?
They're all electric.
And then I assume that, well, I'm asking that, like, the compressor that serves the building on Glen Street that's facing the neighbors wouldn't be any louder than a typical
No.
residential
No.
air
Air
conditioner.
conditioners. Nope, that's exactly right.
I don't have any other comments or questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lecter?
That's a lot to digest, but I gotta say that, it looks great, it really does. It's been mimicked, from the old buildings to the new concept. I think it's great, you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I really have any much more to add right now at this point. There's been a lot of things that, you guys already discussed, and we appreciate it, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belvin?
I like the drawings, I mean, you really did a great job. I mean, there's a lot of comments about, taking down the old building, and this kind of brings that look back to how our city looked, 100 years ago. It'll fit in good in that spot, there's good flow of the parking, reducing the project a little bit. I know we need more units here. It's always better for a developer to cram more in there and to reduce that number. The plantings look great. It is a lot to digest here at this meeting, the first go around. It looks pretty good. Very happy with the changes.
Is there a buffer requirement on the C1 and the R?
Only in parking, and it's a 5-foot parking setback, so we certainly need that.
Sorry, Mr. Lecter?
You said mechanical is all electric, so that like a domestic hot water would be electric?
Yes.
No ventilators?
Yep.
No, like any plumbing ventilation is gonna be sticking up with the roof?
The normal plumbing vents would go through the roof, yes. Yeah, we'll get those painted so that they're the same color as the roof, so they don't stand out. That's one of my things that drives me crazy is when you see a white pipe sticking up through a brown roof.
One other thing too is this is just a personal conjecture. And I realize that you're a lawyer too that owns the building, but I kind of spent some time looking at your building, kind of driving down. I was on my bike, so I wasn't very honest. And looked at the building and stuff, and it's a beautiful building, but it's really in tough shape. And, you know, it's one of those things, I was brought up by a father that said, you know, you can, if you're throwing up zeros on the end of the check, you can do anything, but it's practical. And I really think that, unfortunately, the building is not practical to repair. From what I can see, just personal conjecture, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a contractor. But I also think too that this is a beautiful replication of it, to the point that, you know, to me, as you walk in there front door, there should be a picture of the old building and the history of the building and the guy that built it and everything. Because it really is, this is really an effort to really try to replicate what was there and to stay with the flow of the thing. So like I said, I think it looks great as well.
Great.
Really good.
I agree, and I appreciate that you heard our comments and came back with this. I think it looks very nice, and I agree with the reduction in the size of it, and being inside all of the, inside the setbacks. So, I think it looks very nice. Thank you.
I'd just like to make one other comment. The current project that Chris is finishing on Washington and Harlem, can you sorry. There were a lot of comments when that building was half under construction, and now that it's done, or the exterior is done, the fence and the landscaping, I mean, it's really a dramatic change. Everyone was concerned about seeing those HVAC units, and, you know, Chris, I think he went out of his way with landscaping and with the aluminum wrought iron fence to make that really look attractive. So, you know, I think, like everything, you just got to wait till things are done.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
What the numbers up on top of that, is that fire or something?
It's just to identify the buildings, yes. Yep.
Maybe you could do some of those. Because they really jump out.
They do
The
jump.
project, and I was one of those people,
But
when
at
those
least,
AC units
the
came
fire
in.
company knows which building they're
Yeah.
going
It's
to.
required in our code that they be a certain size.
But they really, you know, he really did a great job with making it look good. Those things jump right out.
They do.
So maybe a decorative right there. The fire department.
I know, they live around the corner, they know where the buildings are. I know it's cool.
Clearly identified, and
Ethan,
That's always our issue, we identify, especially when we have individuals calling in, if they just look at the building and not able to identify, they just say, that, you know, this color apartment. I mean, 28 rooms is a lot of rooms to try to go through, if you're not sure which building it's actually coming from.
what is the siding that's proposed? Do you know?
It's a mix of horizontal and vertical.
Vinyl.
Some of it will be vinyl, some of it will probably be hardy board.
Okay, and I just want to, if I can see it in this a little bit, but just to verify, so the brick facade is the facade
Everything on the
facing
front.
in, and then once you turn the corner,
Once you turn the corner,
the
brick.
sides are going to be,
Yeah, the brick actually wraps the front
Right.
and will wrap around that
That
front
first
portion to the
bump.
first return.
Yep.
Yep, to the first set of balconies on the sides.
okay,
So as you approach the building from either the north or the south, you will see the brick wrap around the
right,
corner.
and then as the building bumps out for the
Then
balconies,
the balcony is
transitions
the
into
transition
different
piece
color.
and will change from there over, yep. And that's mainly on the entry drive in between the two buildings.
And it looks like you are, but are you going to look for brick that matches closely that color?
We're trying to find that particular brick is a little difficult. We're trying to find one.
It changes color over time.
What's that?
You may match it, it changes color over time.
Yeah, that's the problem when you put it in and depending
I
on
mean
what happens.
close, I mean just something.
It will be a
Spirit.
face brick that will be that
Same
terracotta color. And that has a very thin grout line in it, which is the reason that it stands out so much. So we're looking at that as well.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
This is sketch plan review, so we do not take public comment for that. We're not taking public comment
I just
tonight.
have one question. We were informed that we would be given an open mic opportunity.
You
to
will
share-
at architectural and site plan review. This is sketch
We were
plan.
told at the beginning of this meeting there would be an open mic opportunity to share our expression of what is happening with this project.
You-
That's not true, that's what I was told.
That's not accurate. You will be able to at site plan and architecture review. This is sketch plan. It's all part of the planning process, and this is one part of it. There is going to be time for public comment, but it's not for sketch plan review.
John, are we gonna, do you know when we'll be back?
We expect to be back in November.
The
Yes.
November meeting for
We get-
both sketch plan and.
Yes, get everything.
Excuse me, site plan and architectural.
We're planning on getting everything in by the night.
So that's when it would be open for public comment, when it comes for site plan and architecture, which they assume it will be next month, or November, right?
Yes, yeah.
Next month.
And so it'll be clear, we'll be aware that we'll be able to find it and check out.
It will be legally noticed, and it will say site plan and architecture review. This says sketch plan, and there's no comment.
Website will be able to come and give our opinions, our perception of what's happening on that.
We
project.
will have public comment at site plan and architecture review.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing, if you all actually use the microphones in front of you, because we can't hear a thing, you're back here, the microphone's up there. They're behind you, but there's a flip chart which nobody can see. Is this the 21st century, like a or something?
Microphones work, but you have to get your mouth.
Next on the agenda is.
We can't hear the entire meeting and we couldn't see the plan.
You see, we can see that wall for videos.
All right, next on the agenda is subdivision for Matthew Webster. Van Dusen and Steve's Land Surveyors presenting for Terry Walton. Is there anyone here for this application?
Chair, just for this application, the next application, my office didn't receive any correspondence if it was being tabled. We also received no zoning applications for this, as we had no contact with the applicant. We left it on the agenda because we can't take action for the applicant.
Take it. Let's start.
You can take it if you want, yeah. You can, the board has the option to table it or deny it. You might want to table it one more time as a courtesy to the applicant.
Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the for subdivision tables, the project known as Matthew Webster, Van Dusen and Steve's Land Surveyors, presenting for Terry Walton, owner of tax map Parcel A and Parcel B, commonly known as 579 and 575 Glen Street, at today's meeting on October 1st, 2024. Second? Okay. All in favor? And then for the next one as well, Phil?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Subdivision, tables the project known as Arlington Street Subdivision, Van Dusen and Steve's Land Surveyors, presenting Conclude Enterprises, commonly known as 34 to 40 Arlington Street, seeking planning board review and approval, at today's meeting of October 1st, 2024. Second? Anybody? Second. All in favor? Okay, approved. Next on the agenda is site plan review for Greylock Self-Storage Facility, known as 79 Broad, seeking planning board review and approval to construct 5 self-storage buildings. Hello. Can you please tell us your name for the record?
Sure. Anthony Massimiano, the president. Anthony Massimiano, president CEO of Greylock Storage. And just correction, that's four buildings. No.
4 buildings.
Good evening, Brandon Ferguson with Environmental Design Partnership. One second here. So the applicant is here to present a plan for developing or extending development on his land over on Broad Street. The existing parcel consists of 3 existing lots with a total of about 1.86 acres. It's in the GC2 zone. It was recently rezoned with the City Council. And 79 Broad Street, which is kind of highlighted in blue here on this drawing, that is where there's an existing building, about 16,000 square foot building, that's used for self-storage and document storage currently. There's also a large parking and travel surface on the property as well.
The 83 and 85 Broad Street, which are the neighboring parcels that are part of this project, they're about 0.7 acres in total, and they're currently vacant grass and lawn area for the most part. What he's proposing, Greylock's proposing, is, actually let me show you this first. So our original, to give you a little update on where the project stands, we submitted this proposed project with 5 new self-storage buildings to accompany the existing building on site. We had asked for a variance for permeability on the site, and we went to the ZBA. They made some suggestions. We recently made some changes and resubmitted to the city. And the resulting plan, we eliminated one of the buildings, so we're down to 4 buildings with a total of about 9,000 square feet. It's just single-story self-storage buildings. And we eliminated some more pavement area and did our vehicle turning area to access the loading dock. It's going to be actually like a permeable gravel surface in order to bring it down below the 60% threshold and avoid having to get that variance, so making it zoning compliant. Some other features on this site. Right now there's a chain link fence that goes along Broad Street. We're going to replace that with a ornamental fence and do some tree plantings along there to kind of improve the aesthetics along Broad Street. Stormwater management will be managed on site. We'll have a speedies permit, will be managed in accordance with New York State DEC regulations. So we're going to have everything will kind of sheet flow to an infiltration basin and infiltrate into the ground. There's no new sewer or water connections. These buildings don't require sewer or water on the site. And the entrance too, we're going to keep the existing entrance off Broad Street. Just going to replace that fence and kind of clean that entrance up. I think that kind of gives an overview. Open it back to the board for any questions.
Yep. I appreciate the fact that you've taken Building 5 out of the project. I think it felt like a lot, and I know this is an approved use, but it's still a corridor into Glens Falls, so I appreciate the decorative fencing. I'm curious to know what you have in mind for that, if it's going to be, what it exactly is.
For the type of fencing?
Yeah.
So it'd be like, it'd be aluminum most likely. It'd be like a black, kind of wrought iron kind of look.
Not like one of those solid white vinyl privacy fences, but more something different.
No.
Right, and I think that's helpful on this corridor along here. I'm concerned or wondering what the view might be like from the neighbors' yards on Montcalm Street. I know there's a buffer of some trees back there and
Yes,
remnants of a fence.
So there is a chain link fence that goes back there through some of that brushy stuff. A lot of that wooded area is kind of just a mishmash of some invasive species even back in there. So the idea would be to kind of clean that out, and then our development would project a little bit into where that wood line is now. We wouldn't go up to that fence though. That fence would stay.
What's the lighting plan for the site?
So they're all building mounted lights. So they're mounted on the building. And I don't know, you can talk more about your hours of operation.
Yes, the current hours of operation are 8 to 5. I think we would expand access hours for these units no later than 9 or 10. I haven't exactly worked that out, but I think the lighting.
Because they're self-serve, right?
Yeah, self-service. Yeah, and I think we could program the lights to go off after access hours.
Well, lights would have to be full cutoff fixtures so that you don't leak light into the other properties,
Yes.
which would be a concern, given the houses that are on either side. And then I guess, I don't know if it will be an issue with headlights, turning. Maybe it won't be an issue at
But
all.
it's only open until 5.
Well, these are good.
Which is in their May teams. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it wouldn't be all hours.
It's not like a car wash.
And one thing we could do, we could put, that's a chain link fence back there, it might need some repairs, but he could put slats on that fence too.
Yeah.
That would help
Just
with
sort of
any
bring
headlights,
like-
if somebody did come at 9 or 10 o'clock.
If it becomes an issue.
And as far as the lighting goes, yeah, lighting would meet all the city code, everything would be cut off, everything would stay on the property. These buildings are only about 10, 11 feet tall. The lights are only like 9 foot above the ground. It's pretty easy to keep that from projecting over the property line.
And then on the left, the infiltration basin, is that a rain garden, or is that, what's that gonna look?
It'll be like a grass area. It's just for infiltration, so let's see here.
It'll just be grass, it's not gonna be.
Yeah, it's just gonna be grass, yep. It'd be like a little bit of a grass slope and then a flat kind of grass bottom. So they can maintain it. They gotta be able to get in there, be able to mow it, be able to clean out any sediment that gets in there, so it's gotta be maintained.
And are these conditioned units?
No.
Okay, so no additional mechanical units on the outside or anything?
Nope.
Those are my questions, I don't have any comments.
Great, thank you. Mr. Landry, do you want to start?
A couple things. I see you eliminated that fifth building that was going to run parallel with the garage. And I guess I have to preface this too, that I appreciate the fact you've done a lot of work to fix up that main building, the big building that kind of sits behind. I want to choose my words carefully here, but I like the fact you had that fifth building because it was certainly an improvement over what was there now. You know, you had a situation, you had containers and things like that. So, you know, I guess if you were to pay attention to that as you do the fencing, if it's maybe some landscaping or something like that, because I think with this project, we're running into the same thing, just like we were with that Washington Square. This is one of the, entrances to the city. You know, especially with all that's going on with South Street and everything, I was wondering if you were going to take in the ends of the buildings that face Broad Street, because I think the one up on Bay Street, Pike and Brickney does it, maybe take those ends and, maybe the brick or something like that, or they got a, I think if we could, not necessarily the long ends of it, because you're not going to be able to really see them, but I think anything that would run parallel to the street, if we could just, kind of take that into consideration, that needs to look good. Like I say, if you had to, maybe put brick, and I'm not that I'm throwing it a brick would look nice, but just what you see from the street going out. And like I say, you've done a great job with that big one here. So,
thank you. Yeah, I think,
so is there, do you have any consideration, are these going to be built or anything? Would there ever be like rooftop solar on them or something like you see on some of the store units?
We haven't contemplated that
Right.
yet. I think if we were to do something like that in the future, we haven't made plans for that, but the main building would probably be the natural site for solar as opposed to the single-story drive-up units.
I used to be in that industry, and I don't think Ethan could answer this. I think the building almost has to be specially constructed to accept the load of them. So, you're not, it's not necessarily will it work on that standard. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we've gotten quotes for that, and we replaced the roof of the main structure within the past year. But we don't have any plans for solar this time.
I think that's it. Like I say, if we can pay some attention to the detail of what is facing road.
Yeah, so a couple of comments. The containers I know have been a concern, and to that, our plan as part of this project is to move the containers, relocate them to one of our other sites.
Okay.
So if that assuages any concerns, and I think, as you said, I think it's clear we're looking to improve the aesthetics of this property. So I think we'll take your comments, and as we plan out the buildings, we'll keep that front and center.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Doing away with the one building, locking that all off, doing some landscaping, the nice, like, maybe it's not wrought iron, but that look type fencing with the shrubs and stuff. You could go from being like one of the places you just drove by, and the big thing is, wanting customers, to where, wow, that place looks great, and it attracts customers. So, it could be one of the nicer looking places on the street very easily. So it looks like they're headed in the right direction. As long as the lighting issue is going to come down to code, I really don't have an issue with it.
Thank you.
I have to agree with Nina. I think that the lights in the back, if they're going to have later hours, I think that might be a concern, be going right into somebody's kitchen window or something. So I think maybe a fence in the back or putting the slats in is probably a good idea before you extend those hours.
Isn't there a house behind the house on the street next to you?
Next door?
Yeah, the adjacent lot.
There's a house out, there's a building out front. I think it's
Isn't there one behind
I think
there?
it's right, I don't know if it's right behind there. It's a little bit, I think.
Yeah, because that really puts that house deeper into your project.
Would the applicant be opposed to making the fence in the back that abuts Montcalm of some sort of solid fence?
Well, yeah, that's what we're talking, we could do,
Right.
so the chain link fence there that he's just gonna repair essentially and kind of fix up as needed, but with those chain link fences, you can put the vinyl slats in them. I think, that's something.
That's
we're
what I'm
willing
saying,
to-
if
yep.
the board makes that a condition and something we live with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a 4-foot chain link fence? Is it?
6 foot.
Oh, 6 foot high, also you put slats in.
I think that would be nice, to just avoid any problems with the neighbors before it even starts. And then in the front, are these all trees you're gonna put in?
So these 5 trees, yeah, those are trees we plan on installing. There are a couple trees, they're smaller trees that are in the right of way now along, those aren't being touched. But yeah, we're planning on planting some trees along the frontage as well in order to kind of clean up the frontage and
Yeah.
improve the aesthetics.
No, I agree with what I said. I think that it could look very nice with that fence in the front and some landscaping.
You know, one thought, because I know we have a member of the tree commission here, the city's actively right now going through replacing trees and planting trees and trees that don't, grow too high and they don't grow into sewer systems and things like that. Is that something that the tree commission would coordinate with them? I would almost think that they, you can take and contact the city and the city, they may even provide the trees. I'm not going to speak for them, but I'm under the impression there's a consensus of a tree that you've standardized on to replace the elms of the past.
It's all based on our lines and areas and this and that. We have the whole set of trees that fit into any scenario.
Yeah.
Big, small, large.
Yeah, we actually have a note on the plan now for those proposed trees, as approved by the city of Glens Falls.
Right.
So the idea would be to coordinate with the city to make sure we're putting a tree there that works for because we know it's right next to the sidewalk as well, along Broad Street to work in that area.
Anybody else? Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak on this application? If so, please come up. Come on up. Good evening.
Good, there you go.
Can we have your name, please,
Yes,
sir, and
ma'am.
your address?
My name's Steve Berkowitz, and I live at 28 Montcalm Street. I wrote out some thoughts so I can keep my
Great.
train of thought here, if that's all right. So I'm Steve Berkowitz. I'm a lifelong resident of Glens Falls. I have a tooth missing. I got a numb jaw here. I'm a retired Glens Falls Public Works Supervisor. I own the properties at 26, 28, and 30 Montcalm. This properties that border along the Graylock property on Broad Street. Property's been in my family for 100 years, and I've lived there for over 30 years. My property is very secluded, quiet, peaceful, naturally beautiful, full of birds, monarch butterflies. When this issue first came to my attention, like a good neighbor, I went to the Graylock building on Broad Street in an effort to introduce myself and talk to the owner to inquire what the plans were and to voice my concerns. I was told that the owners were from out of state and that people there had no information on any plans. So I was left in the dark. So, my house is 28 Montcalm, so that sits in the center of my property. And it's directly behind that little field that sits behind me. I believe that's where they're talking about building. So, there's a thick green wall of growth behind my 6-foot fence on their side. It's been there for over 30 years that I've lived there. It was always I always thought that it was a city code that there had to be a natural buffer between commercial and private property. Maybe that's not the case, maybe it's been changed, I don't know. The growth that's there is probably 12 foot high, and from what I can see from my side, it's probably a good 15 feet thick going into their backyard. So, and I thought, they always thought that was code too, because they used to mow the property and they never touched that wall of growth that's there for over 30 years. I can't see into their yard, and they can't see into mine. If you look from the Broad Street side, you can't even see my house. I haven't seen any site plans, and so my concern has been that if they cut all that green growth down, I will be sitting on my deck at 28 Macon Street and looking directly into the property with all the lights and the cars and the people going in and out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and all the traffic going up and down Broad Street. I believe it will have a major impact on my privacy, and also perhaps a major impact on my property value. I wonder if the natural buffer could be left, I've been trying to do my research, as a 15-foot setback. And if it's not city code and they cut all that down, could Greylock install a 10 or 12-foot privacy fence between our properties to address my concerns and protect my privacy? So that's kind of short-winded, but thank you.
Hey, can we ask questions?
Sure, of course.
Can I grab my water?
I mean, as far as if you look at the plan right now, you've got the buildings, you can see where the driveway is going to be drawn. It looks like there's kind of an area, and you mentioned that must be where the growth is right now. It would be behind the big warehouse building, and it would be, be right along the top there.
It is. When I'm in my yard, 26 Macon is, part of it is the side of that building.
Okay.
So 28 is center to that field, and then 30 is really kind of obscured beyond that side fence. And that growth is all along, particularly behind 28. It's been there forever.
Is it freestanding growth? I mean,
yeah, it's a mixture of brush, small trees. I think it's a mixture. I can't get over there to see exactly what's in there, but it's just, from my side, it's a wall of green, and it's been there forever.
If it was their purview that they could take that down, could that be replaced with maybe like a 15-foot trees that would be, they come up maybe 5 feet and then they're going to be a tree on top of it, or taller arborvitaes or something like that?
I think if they plant trees down there, they're taking forever to grow. And talking about putting a 6-foot chain link fence back there, I already have a 6-foot stockade fence there. Putting a chain link fence there is not going to do anything about opening that entire hole to my yard.
Well, why don't your stockade fence doesn't run the length of the property?
Yes, mine does.
Okay.
That's only 6 feet.
And the green is
Behind it, I have 4 foot in the front, 6 foot all the way down both sides, 6 foot all the way across the back. And I have all kinds of trees and all kinds of things, but this overgrowth is on their side of the property.
So why don't we would you guys mind coming back up? Do you guys have a plan for this green growth that he's talking about? It's on your side?
I think he just said they were going to cut it down.
Yeah, the majority of it would be cut out with our current plan, and to allow for grading and to allow for this turnaround the end of the building here. And like you said, there's a lot of it is shrubs and vines and maybe some small trees in there. It's pretty thick right now, I don't disagree. And there is there's a wood stake fence along that property line, as well as a 6-foot chain link fence as well, that's right on our side of the property line as well.
There's two fences there, like a chain link for you guys and then his stockade fence?
Yeah, so the wood fence,
And then the growth is in between them?
so the growth
It's
is
on
the
both
growth is
sides.
on our side of the chain link fence right now.
What is the distance between the edge of the driveway and the property line?
Let's see.
That's gotta be where the growth is.
Well, the growth they're gonna take down
Right. We're
growth
gonna need that for grading.
to create that driveway there. I'm just wondering what's left over on the site plan that you're showing.
So I think the edge of our driveway to that property line is about 20 feet, right on the setback line with the edge of that driveway.
So that's 20 feet of green that can be preserved. I mean, less a little bit for the grading that has to
And we
happen.
could try to tighten up some of the grading back here just because of drainage from this paved area. Some of it has kind of come off this end, and to get it around to the infiltration basin and to keep it off of his properties, we would need to get a little bit of a swale back in there. We might be able to tighten that up a little bit, especially on this corner here, to try to save some of that existing greenery. But also we were talking about with the slats and the fence, and we could plant a couple, additional trees along that on our side as well in order to help establish kind of a new green buffer.
It could be sort of filling in the holes. I mean, it sounds like some of that is junk trees back there anyway that come down and start between the fence and if you're able to put trees on the swale there, fill in the holes as a swale.
If it's 15 feet wide about,
You said it's almost 20 feet.
I mean, even if you left half of it there, would that be reasonable?
Is there anything
You still
stopping?
preserve a bunch of green for neighbors.
Yeah, because it is there. Like I said, from Broad Street, you can't even see my house.
Right, but I can understand them doing a new project and wanting to grade and clean all that up and not have, we have a problem with people in the city that where they are and shouldn't be and have a place where they could be in there. So I can understand, wanting to clean, not having a new facility and wanting to clean it out. Maybe, like I said, grade it and throw some arborvitaes in. They will grow in and fill in, and you guys would have a great look, and he'd have his screen, and they would grow up, and you'd have a wall across there in a couple of years. And it would look great for your property,
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I think, we're like you're kind of saying, leaving that kind of brushy area back in here. There's the chain link fence in there, but he's got to be able to maintain for security reasons back there, which I don't even know if our surveyors are able to pick it up. I haven't even seen that fence. It's kind of been back in there a little bit. But yeah, the idea would be to clean that out in order to make the property more maintainable and keep it secure as well. But yeah, we definitely, I don't think I have an issue planting some arborvitaes or some type of evergreen tree in there that would grow up and fill in. Yep.
I mean, if you look at the trees, like the ones all over their plant in the city right now, there's about 4 foot of trunk. There may be a 12, 14-foot tree. So 4 foot of trunk, and then you got about maybe an 8-foot ball that's gonna grow from there. I mean, like I say, when you think about it, you're not gonna have the jungle you have now, but you'd have, you might have deciduous trees that are gonna turn colors in the fall, that type of thing.
I mean, for a buffer, it might be better to put conifers in there, just
Yeah.
so that he has a buffer in the winter time as well.
Or even if they're.
And less maintenance.
They tend to be a little faster growing too.
Yeah, or white pine or something like that, it's gonna grow quick, it's gonna cover. You're gonna see through it, obviously, but it's not gonna be, I don't think you're ever gonna get the jungle that's there now.
No, but even so, I don't want to go from having Broad Street, I can't even see it, to all of a sudden looking into their property with cars coming in, people driving in there, lights, security cameras. I think it's a big violation of my privacy.
I mean, as far as uses on this property too, this is probably one of the most low intense uses you could get here. Especially with the district in. I mean, self-storage, you get a couple cars coming in a day once it's full. You're not getting people coming in constantly throughout the day. You have somebody come in, quick, grab something out of their storage unit. A lot of people put their stuff in there and don't come back for years. So it's not, you're not going to get a lot of noise or anything like that from this. People open up the storage unit, grab something out, and drive it away.
Are the what you're planning on building, is it gonna be along the side or toward the back where I am?
So these are the proposed buildings, and I can kind of turn this a little bit for you to see. So here's
This
your
is your main
property,
building?
here's
Yep,
your
that's my
properties back
property.
here, this is the main building. So the buildings would run perpendicular to Broad Street. Most access would be from the ends. There might be a few units on the end here, small units. But on this building, every unit would be accessed from the drive area, same with here. So most of the units are going to be facing either against each other or towards the existing building. You know, you might get an occasional car that drives around to loop down this way once they picked up their stuff or to get them out of that building.
And that reinforces why I want that private buffer there, if I've got cars in there driving
I
behind
don't
my
think
yard.
there's a buffer.
I was gonna.
Well, buffer's the word, I mean, we
After
do-
this discussion, but in a GC1 zone, there is no requirement.
There's no requirement.
for-
It's only with light industrial.
It's light and heavy industrial, that's only when it butts up against a residential use. So this being GC1, or GC2, whichever way it went.
That's why I asked if what exists there couldn't be there, or it's all cut down, can there be a privacy fence put in there? That,
I think they're suggesting that they aren't going to necessarily cut it all down, and it
Is that
sounds
what
like
you're
there's
saying?
20 feet between the property line and the edge of the driveway there. So
It would be cut down under the current plan. We would cut it down. We'd keep that fence there, and the idea would be to put those slats in that fence in
Okay.
order to improve privacy, like it was suggested previously. Block any headlights from coming this way. So this 6-foot chain link fence in the back would have slats in it, so you couldn't see through it.
my house is behind it, I'm not gonna see through it, I'm gonna be looking right over. If I'm sitting on my deck, I'm gonna be looking right into the yard. I mean, I'm just telling you how it affects me. My privacy, my property, right?
If they're gonna be on the ground, they're not gonna be able to see in there. You know, maybe they can see up and see the roof or something. You know? And if they plant, like they said, it seemed like they were agreeable to plant some arborvitaes and stuff there, they'd give you a pretty nice buffer.
That's fine. I just didn't want to have all that torn down and have to wait 5 years to have it grow back in.
Yeah.
Understood. I mean, you know, we want to be good neighbors.
Yeah,
I
me
get
too. I mean,
I get
you know,
your concern. And,
yeah. It's been, I grew up there, it's been that way my whole life, so to have that abrupt change is kind of extreme to me. You know, not to you, your business.
And there's also a height restriction for fences in the city too, 6 foot.
8 feet for commercial and industrial. 6 feet for residential.
So you, as the applicant, you're willing to put some arborvitae back there against that? And
Yeah, we can put some arborvitaes along this back, kind of between the swale and the fence itself. They can allow it to grow up, and
And the slots on the fence.
we'll put the slots in the fence. Yep.
There it is. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Okay.
With respect to seeker, this is an unlisted action, so the applicant has provided the part one, short environmental assessment form. The board is required to review part two. So number one, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No, or small impact. Small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in adverse change in existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
No. Will the proposed action impact public-private water supplies? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase to the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No. Based upon the board's review of the Part 2, the board could issue a negative declaration.
I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby accepts lead agency status for Graylock Self-Storage Facility, MCP Glens Falls Properties LLC, owner of the property located at 79, 83, and 85 Broad Street. The board has determined the action to be type 2 unlisted.
Type 2, unlisted action.
An unlisted action, and has reviewed the short form environmental assessment, and upon documentation and discussion issues a negative declaration at the meeting of October 1st, 2024. Second? All in favor? And then we'll move the site plan?
Yes.
Okay. Are those conditions?
I think the applicant was willing to do the conditions of slats to the chain link fence on the property that borders the Montcalm properties, and they would be willing to plant arborvitaes or conifers. And then it's also subject to New York State DEC permit, correct?
For speedy smear for stormwater, yes.
Okay.
Is that a condition of the DEC?
It should be,
At the time.
Okay. Then I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant site plan approval for the project identified as Graylock Self-Storage Facility, MCP Glens Falls Properties LLC, as, and located at 79, 83, and 85 Broad Street, as presented at the meeting of October 1st, 2024, with the following conditions. That there are slats to the chain link fence, and that arborvitae or conifers are planted along the Montcalm Street border, and that they obtain DEC approval.
DEC
Permits as appropriate. Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, it's passed. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
PJ, will you withdraw this from the zoning board of appeals
Yes.
agenda? It was tabled last time, and we can send an email letting the
If you send me an email requesting withdrawal from the ZBA, I'll take out the agenda, so you don't have to show the purpose of withdrawal.
Next on the agenda is sketch plan review for 579 Sherman Avenue LLC, commonly known as 579 Sherman Avenue, seeking planning board sketch plan review to construct a multifamily residential development.
Chair, before the applicant comes up, I have something I'd like to read into the record regarding the density requirement that was brought up at the last meeting. And I can provide this copy. My office received a letter of interpretation dated May 13th, 2021, written by City Attorney Karen Judd, that interprets City Code Section 22014F, the density requirement for multifamily zones, RM zones. No multifamily dwelling shall be erected, altered, or used which does not provide a lot area of at least 2,500 square feet of gross floor area for each dwelling unit. In her interpretation as follows: as the code states, gross floor area, the city has interpreted this to include the square footage for the second and third floors in the density calculation. The Glens Falls Building Code Office reaffirms this interpretation, which in layman's terms lays the criteria for density calculations in the RM zones to be calculated as the gross floor area of the project, not the summation of the net area of each floor. We ask the board that these interpretations and the review and calculation of the density requirements for the proposed project at 579 Sherman.
So in other words, you're saying the footprint?
Just the footprint
As
of,
opposed to the net?
of each floor, yeah, it's gross floor area, not net floor area. So instead of adding all three up, it's just the overall footprint, more or less. I mean, if there was outbuildings that weren't dwelling units that were attached to it, no, it's just the principal structure containing dwelling units.
And
That interpretation was because there was a discrepancy in the code.
Yeah.
One section of the code referred to gross square feet and the other
Yeah, so,
eliminated the word. So it came up with one of the other projects. I believe Mr. Bruno is involved.
yes, we just want to make sure that the city's interpretation and application is consistent among all projects.
And is this going to be applied then to the entire property, including the existing
Yes,
apartment buildings that are on
Yes.
there?
correct. It would be the footprint of every,
Of every
you know,
building?
excluding any mechanical rooms that are attached or ancillary buildings. It would just be the,
Right, so
the
it's
12
the two
spaces.
existing buildings plus the proposed new
Correct.
one on that site?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes. What does that mean?
So, basically, when you're doing a density calculation for a project to conform to the city code, you're not adding every floor together. So if you had a 10,000 square foot building with 5 stories and 5,000 or 50,000 square feet, you don't calculate the density based on the 50,000, you calculate the density on the 10,000.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
All right.
Again?
This is still sketch plan.
Yes.
You have sketches.
Good evening, members of the planning board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dawn Davidson, and I'm here to seek approval to build 32 units at 5 Sherman Avenue, where the existing building was lost due to a fire, as well as to obtain a parking variance. I'm the proud managing partner of a small family business, and over the past 6 years, I've been dedicated to revitalizing and improving our community. We currently employ 3 full-time employees, regularly hire local subcontractors, and finance through local banks, all contributing to the local economy. Additionally, we pay significant taxes and contribute to the incremental tax base. More importantly, we've replaced absentee landlords and worked hard to improve the safety and security of our properties. In doing so, we've also improved the quality of the tenant base, reducing the strain on local authorities and resources. We are seeking your approval to build 32 units on the now empty lot at 5 Sherman Avenue. We've taken your input into consideration and created new architectural renderings that are visually pleasing and complementary to the surrounding buildings, ensuring that our improvements align with the character of the neighborhood. In the 6 years since purchasing and rehabilitating 4 properties totaling approximately 200 apartments, we have never requested any variances. We've adhered to all regulations and ensured that each of our properties has parking lots that meet the needs of our tenants. However, we now find ourselves in need to ask for this parking variance. We are seeking, regarding the variance, we're seeking approval for 55 parking spaces instead of the 75 by zoning. Our property will feature 50 units. A majority will be made up of studios and 1-bedrooms. And we are confident that this plan will meet parking needs of our tenants. Based on our experience managing 3 other properties in the immediate downtown area, we have firsthand knowledge that 1 parking space per unit is more than sufficient, and here's how it will be managed. Each lease will include 1 assigned parking space per apartment. Parking spaces will be assigned and clearly marked. Parking permits will be required and displayed in all vehicles. If necessary, overflow parking will be available on our nearby property at 21 Sherman Avenue or one of our other locations. I ask that you consider the positive contributions we've made to the safety improvements, our investment in revitalizing properties to their original glory, the jobs we've created, the local subcontractors we support, the reduced strain on local resources, our commitment to preserving the architectural harmony of the community, and our ongoing efforts to rebuild and provide housing at 5 Sherman Avenue. We've always operated within the guidelines, and this request is only necessary due to these unique circumstances. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Want to take it?
Sure. Good evening. For your records, Ethan Hall, Principal of Rosinski Hall Architecture. Just kind of want to run through the site plan and front building facade that we've made some modifications to. The lot coverage is 50% for this zone. Currently, this layout shows the existing layout. This is the building that burned down. That's no longer there. This was part of the original. It was a twin to the one that remains there. This area is the current parking, and the amount of sidewalk space that's shown on here is fairly significant. The barn that's in the back comes down as part of this so that we can provide some additional parking in the back. The site plan that you see modifies the sidewalks so that we are at 50%. Our lot coverage right now provides 50% green space. That's including the permeable pavement that's here and the credit that's allowed for the permeable pavement and the porous area that's back here for parking, which allows water to run through it. As Dawn said, we're providing 1.1 parking spaces per apartment. 1.5 is what's required. Based on what they feel they need, 1 is sufficient. So we actually have 5 more parking spaces than what we need for the 50 apartments that are in there. They are asking for the area variance. They got the height variance already, but because it wasn't properly notified, they didn't get reviewed for the side yard, rear yard setback. So the rear yard setback, they're back in front of the zoning board for that. What's the date of that zoning? I think it's in 21st. So they'll be back for that to get that zoning variance back there. The driveway entry doesn't change with this layout. We are just expanding the parking towards this building on Sherman back here. This parking area back here where the barn comes down is accessed from Holman in and out through that space there. The front facade that you see here very closely mimics, and you have a picture of the building that's on Sherman now. It's what we have tried to do was to take that building and make this new building mimic that building, both in color and in the layout of these front balconies that are on here. And we've come up with what we think works very well, and I think will mimic that very nicely. And I think you hinted at a photo of the existing. Yeah.
It's also important to note when we build this structure, we will side or paint the existing structures to match all in white.
Yeah. So the 2 existing buildings will be redone to match this building once it's completed.
When you got your height variance, I thought the roof line was represented to be something different.
What Dawn had showed was the pop-up where it's the elevator shaft. Again,
Okay.
it's the run-by of the elevator shaft that requires that height variance. You have to be 13 feet above the highest finished floor for the elevator run-by to happen. And what we've done is we've put the facade up here to hide that. So it's back behind that.
So that's just like a hip roof, then you'll have a flat roof on top of that?
It's a parapet on top.
Okay.
Yep.
Not quite. The flat roof is at this level.
Right.
This is a false facade.
It's just a parapet.
Yeah.
So the elevator penthouse will be visible.
No, it's
hidden behind that parapet.
You might see a foot of it if you're standing on the roof of the neighbor's house across the street.
Okay.
Looking up at it, Tom, you'll never see it.
The church steeple's right back there. You'll probably notice that first.
Do you have a picture of what the sides are gonna look like?
We haven't turned the corners. We were mostly concerned with getting the front, and Don asked me for this last week, so.
And which way is this facing on the plan? On the
Pardon?
site- On the site plan, which way is it facing?
That's
This is
This faces the parking lot.
The park.
So that facade that you're looking at is right here.
Facing Sherman.
So south facing
Yep,
Sherman?
facing Sherman, and it's the same face that's on that picture. If you look at the picture that's included with that drawing, it's the same one.
And that's your parking access underneath that grade?
Correct. Yep.
How many apartments are this? 32. Now you're showing 16 windows here in the front
Mhm. 16 in the back.
and 16 in the back, so it's going to have box sides.
The sides, yes, we'll have some treatment that'll break the sides up, but yes.
Will there be windows on the sides?
So it's gonna really depend, in the stairwells there will be, and it's gonna depend on the layout of the apartment and what winds up on those walls. They're still, the people that are doing the design of the actual building are still working on the layouts for
Because
those.
this is where we're going with the modular design, so it'll depend on
How that whole thing lays out. Yep.
Is
I
that
wouldn't
parapet
anticipate
on
windows on the
back
side.
side of the building as well?
Will the parapet wrap all the way around? I think it's the intent that parapet
Yes.
goes all the way around. Yep. And did you bring an example? Yeah. The one siding or what the
This is a product that's commercially available. It mimics slate, but it only weighs 270 pounds, 5 pounds per square versus over 1,000. So we can do this economic.
Here.
Are these all one-bedroom apartments?
One bedroom and studios.
On each floor, there are 5 one-bedrooms and 3 studios. The studios have stairways or elevator shafts.
So the studios, and again, I know it might be premature, but the studios, would they have just one window?
It'll either have the window or the door, yes. And again, it's going to depend on where those fall within the building. If they're center units, obviously we don't have windows on those center units because you're looking at the other apartments. The ones on the sides, we just haven't determined where the windows are going to fall because we don't know what the interior spaces
Well, one
are.
thing about the side, and I think we had the same concern with the Washington Street, is that the east side of this building is going to face Glen Street. It's going to be quite visible from Glen Street.
No.
It's back behind
It's
the...
behind the senior center.
Yeah,
It's behind the senior center, and there's a row of trees there that will block the view from Glen Street. You won't see this.
Yeah.
You
So
don't see the current.
This is
building.
the senior building here, Tom, and there's that whole row of trees. This thing's actually back here.
Okay, so there will be a row of trees there.
Yeah, they're there already.
Here now.
Yeah, there's a big hedgerow along there.
Nita, do you want to start with some architectural?
So there was a question about the density requirement. Did you run the calculation?
Yep. Yep, the number on the footprint matches what we're allowed to. And I can provide you that.
And the area variance that you're looking for is because you're within the setback there?
The rear yard setback is 20 feet, right here. The existing building, we just lined everything up with the existing building, and that rear yard setback is 12 feet, that's existing. And we're not getting any closer to the rear yard than what the existing is. We're putting it basically right, the footprint goes right where the old building was. We're a little bit closer.
Well, you're smaller than the old building, though. I think.
Larger.
You're larger than the old?
Yeah.
Do you have, is that,
Well, it's because of the shape of the building unit, this goes back and then flares out, whereas this is a rectangle, just based on the layout.
and that rectangle represents the footprint of the building?
Correct. And if you took this building and made a rectangle out of it, that's how big it would be.
And I understand you want to align it with the facade of the other building?
Correct.
Are you removing all the trees in the lots to the north and then on the Glen Street because they're,
No, I don't.
okay,
there's
to get
no
the
trees
new
down
parking
there.
in?
Where are we talking about?
To the north?
Here?
No, see the parking lot to the west?
Over here?
Yeah.
There's
There's a fence and overgrown vegetation. The fence is on our neighbor's property.
The barn itself comes down?
Barn comes down.
Yep. But other than that, there's no modifications to the landscaping that's there already.
I guess I have questions or comments, and I'm not sure how much they apply necessarily to architectural review, other than the fact that
You know, this is still
sketch plan.
Yeah, we're just looking for feedback so that we can come back to you.
My questions have to do with the massing of the building and the side elevations, and maybe tangential to that because of the method of construction. I can't help wondering about the success of a building with apartments that don't have windows in the living spaces, and I understand that that's code compliant, but it's a question.
We currently have property at 425 Glens Street, where I have 31 existing studios / one bedrooms, with windows only in the bedroom area. We're under construction for 10 new units in the old cafeteria, Pit 32 gym, that also only have windows in the bedroom where they're required.
Okay, fair enough.
It's typical of the type of construction you're forced to do based on what you're working with.
Well, right, exactly, right.
There are certain constraints
It comes
that we
from
have.
the modular construction.
No, it's not. It's not true modular. What I'm talking about, these other properties, they're not modular. It's an old school that was converted. The windows are in the bedroom.
But this is modular construction, and so
Well,
by definition, you're going to have
No, interior
it's
units
with
can't have
at the
windows.
end, right?
So the only place where we could put windows possibly is in the exterior units. It's not something we haven't ruled out. It's just something we didn't take into account. Because this is the first we've heard of it.
Yeah, we can show the exterior elevations, because we have a stairwell here and a stairwell here with the elevator. So we can show those exteriors where the stairwells are gonna be. There will be certainly windows in the stairwells. And we can show the exteriors for those other two spaces. And it'll just depend on the layout of each unit as to whether or not it's appropriate to put a window in a certain spot.
Yeah. And then, as with the other projects, it would be great just to understand what the massing of this building would be in relation to the existing
Versus that one?
building next to it. So we know scale, and we sort of, maybe looking at it
From Sherman Avenue.
Yeah.
Sure. We've got the elevation of that. We can,
About 45 feet.
yeah, we can drop our rendering right into the picture.
Yeah. And as was mentioned, side elevations would be helpful.
Sure.
Mr. Lampier?
I'm just looking at what we have here. Are there privacy barriers?
Yes.
Between this is what I'm seeing here, I guess.
Between the balconies?
Yes.
Yes. In between, where
If that
each,
was the case or not.
yeah, where each apartment stops, there'll be a privacy barrier on that balcony.
Okay.
The way that we've done them, Don and I really have talked about this a whole lot, but the way we've done it in the past is we alternate the boards on either side, so that, when you're looking through it, it's a solid wall,
Yeah.
air flows right through it, so it's open on both sides.
Okay. Yeah, that was the one thing I had. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, yeah, we talked about that as well, having one, because the balcony does run all the way across, and we will have to divide it at the apartments.
Well, it would be on the other side of the building as well.
The balcony will not be on.
Is this facade both sides? Both
The balcony will not be on the back side at all. We don't have room for it. We're right up against the
Right
setback.
up against the property line.
Yeah,
The setback.
yeah, that's why we need the variance. And if we were adding the balconies on the back, our variance would be significantly larger. So, less.
It's 8 foot, right? Is it
Pardon?
Rear yard is 8 foot.
We're asking for 8 foot of relief, yes. Yeah, it's a 20-foot required setback, and we're at 12 feet.
I think it's 25 point something rather, because of the 20% requirement. We're asking for
Yeah.
13.85.
That's right.
And that should be on this month's PPA.
Correct.
Anything else? Mr. Lampier?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, I'm curious now to see what the back's going to look like. For the front, you have that nice balconies and everything, and you're gonna have the same footprint inside the building, but without those, so we'll see, I'm curious to see what those other elevations.
Yeah, show the exterior.
But otherwise, I mean, it's done a pretty nice job of making it look like that, the building was there before. We have something to go on with sketch review now, so we're headed in the right direction.
Is that building on the site plan to the east of where you are, is that the senior citizens?
That's the senior citizens.
Okay. So, unless I'm wrong, then half of the east side of your building is going to be visible from Glen Street and most of the back.
Out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And the back will be visible from the parking lot in the church.
But if you were to put the church, there's quite a bit of area between the senior citizens and the church that you're going to be able to.
There is that open lawn area that's to the south of the church and the north of the senior center. That's fairly well. I can take a picture from here and show you looking in what that's going to look like. I mean, there's quite a few trees in that area as well, and this hedgerow along there that's a fairly heavily.
Because I think you can probably hear the consensus. The front of the building looks great.
Got to see what the sides look like.
But by the same token, too, you guys have done an incredible job with all the buildings around it, which look like nice old buildings. And we're almost trying to work with you to say, listen, you know, you're going to put. My concern is that you're going to put a big box there. And it's going to look great from Sherman Avenue, but it's still going to be a big box. When you look at it from Glen Street, you look at it from the side, and we're actually trying to pay respect to the work you've done with your old buildings. You know, so I mean, there's got to be some kind of happy medium. You know, it's not like because when you think about it, you own the buildings that we're sitting there telling you look great right now. You've done a great job. And this is really a radical departure from what you've done. That's all I have. But I think the front looks great.
We'll continue that around the sides.
I agree, you guys have done a lot for it to make Glens Falls look really nice, and done a beautiful job with the buildings. Where do people go in here? Where do you go? How do you enter the building?
So there's an entry here and an entry here. You can get through this. There's the stairwells can be entered from the parking garage underneath, and there are entries on both sides. So there's a main, when you look at the floor plan, obviously you don't have the floor plans to look at if they're not completed, but there's a center corridor that runs east-west, and the entry doors to the apartments run north-south off from that entry corridor. So you've got two means of egress from both floors and an elevator which services all four floors.
You know, I agree with everything these guys have said. I think this looks very nice. You know, it feels to me like I was looking at it and I'm like, I wish there were stairs down, like a real porch. Do you know what I mean? I mean, is there any way to make that happen? I mean, I know you're not going, you could just be like
The only issue with doing that is that we start to have a security issue.
Because it's not public.
Because if
Right.
they're private balconies, and if you put stairs down to them, you're not keeping anybody off them.
No, but maybe you could charge extra and then you just go. I just think, you know, the really old one, it just looks so welcoming down the stairs. I don't know if there's any. I think that might look.
In that center entrance.
I know. I get the security thing. I wouldn't want the stairs going live.
That's the biggest drawback. I mean, we talked about that.
Well, we could turn the building 90 degrees and then do that. But I don't think that's practical.
Yeah.
And there's no like central corridor in the middle. Like you couldn't.
Not front to back.
Not front to back.
Front to back, side to
Front to back, they're side to side, yep.
But wouldn't you have to have stairs then on the east and the west because?
They're interior to the building.
So you enter at grade and then the stairs are interior?
So you've got a center elevator with stairwells on the other side.
Elevators on one side.
Okay.
Elevators on this side.
And then stairwell.
And stairwells on both
the other
sides.
side. Okay.
Yep. With a connecting corridor down the middle of the building, running east-west. And that's why Don said some of these units where the stairwell are studio units. The ones that are in the middle and outside where the stairwell and the elevator don't interfere with them, then they're one bedroom units. And it's all based on the corridor and where the stairwells are.
And what's under the balcony is paving, right? That's part of the parking lot.
No, the balcony comes out. There is a walkway that runs through there, and there's a walkway that runs through here. So yes, there is some pavement
It's
underneath there.
how deep?
6 feet.
6 feet?
The gray area by the post on the right and left is a retaining wall because the grade comes down.
So how much, yeah, it would be great to see the side elevations
Sure.
to know how much of that underground parking and the foundation
Is visible.
one sees on this as you move.
You can see on that rendering, the stairs go up on the sides
Yeah.
to get you to the main floor.
So there are exterior stairs.
There are small ones on each side that get to the entryway.
The first floor, maybe they could.
Anybody else have any comments?
Sure. Sorry, and I have a question for you.
Yes.
So, you said there's an entry and exit on Holman as well now for this?
There's a drive that's on Holman now.
And it's already there?
Mhm.
Okay,
We have a-
perfect. I was gonna say, because I know they just redid all that. And
Yes.
and brand new curbing. and
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna
no,
say,
it's-
if you're
it's-
actually doing
it's
that,
already
get torn
there.
up. Okay, perfect, that was all I had asked.
Yep.
If they wanted to do down Sherman now, that'd be great.
Right. They just did
Well,
that, so
that's
I
coming,
didn't
that's
give you a
coming
hard-
once Stewart's
Eventually,
gets redone, that'll all happen as well. Good.
What's your feeling on the parking issue?
I mean, I think we have to see it on the plans.
What?
No, in terms of,
I mean,
Plans are here.
I don't have a concern.
Right.
Right.
I think it's, to me, it sounds reasonable if you have 1.1 parking space for everybody, but
The thing that comes to mind with that question is that I can't believe that you guys are gonna spend millions of dollars to build something that's not gonna sell because there's not enough parking or not enough windows.
Well, every one of our properties has one of these.
Right.
And every tenant has one.
Right.
And we give them one parking spot per. Sunday, 2 weeks ago, I toured our old properties and took pictures. I can leave them with you, I'd be happy to. It shows that not one parking lot is anywhere near full.
Right.
So our experience is that one per is more than enough, and maybe the regulation is too stringent for a downtown urban area.
For a one bedroom.
For one bedroom apartments.
And like I say, to me, that would put great risk on your investment if you've got something that's.
Right. We
Can't rent
wouldn't,
it.
we wouldn't propose it if we didn't think it was profitable. Correct.
Friends showing up.
How much overflow do you have at 21 Sherman?
I'd say 4 or 5. I had 425 Glen, which is across the street and one block up. 30 out of 162 that we have.
The parking is the one on Sherman that's farther down, that's a pretty big parking lot.
When
That's
we
what you're saying, you
purchased-
only have like 5 or 6 extra there?
Well,
Compared to what you're supposed to have?
correct.
Okay.
See, when we bought that property, we effectively doubled the parking because it was a huge tree line, it was
Oh, I
13
remember.
feet.
Yeah.
Took the trees, put the fence, and doubled the parking.
Right.
We quadrupled the parking at 7 Chester and 453 Glen. So we're well aware that parking is something that we need. That parking lot is half empty all the time.
Yeah.
When you say 6 extra, you're saying 6 extra at
That's versus
1.5
code.
car.
Right.
At 21 Sherman, I could accommodate 6 additional if I had to.
Right.
But while our plan here we'd show probably 3 or 4 guest spots and 1 maintenance spot. And then if we really had to, we could drop a guest spot if someone needed to, but they would pay for the second one.
And is this site plan compliant with, fire code access to get trucks around the building and out of home?
You'd never get a truck down there. No way.
We already had issues with some of the streets where the aerial just can't get down there. But that's pre-existing.
Right.
Between that and the wires in the street, it's nearly impossible to site the aerial no matter which way you come in. The other apparatus will be able to kind of squeeze in there to get those up. All they need is a 150-foot limit to any access to the building, which
And
I didn't see a problem with that.
The other thing to keep in mind, this will be a fully sprinklered building, and we'll have a fire department connection on the building.
So then that doubles the distance.
So you're at 300 feet, going around both sides, and if they rough that, you could probably circle all the way around.
Absolutely, we could get.
Just to mention too with Holman, the Board of Open Safety, they recently recommended to change Holman's to no on-street parking at all. So that's actually going to be going in front of common council, that to change the local law, so there will be no on-street parking on Holman at all. Because of the narrow, it's so narrow now, yeah, exactly.
Anybody else have any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, we're not taking public comment because discussion and review. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a signboard review, Lawrence and Cooper. 2125 Cooper Street is proposing a 324 square foot painted mural on the side of the building. Do we have anybody here representing the applicant?
This is Eric Unkoff.
This is for the 324 square foot one?
All right, the one that's a sign.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure, Eric Unkoff.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us anything in addition to your application?
I don't know, it's, I think the picture basically says what we're looking to do.
You're fine for both the sign and the owl, right?
Right, well, they're two separate.
Two separate.
They're two separate things. So I think we're doing the sign now.
Yeah, this is the shirt factory one first.
Okay. Well, my comments apply to both, just for expediency. We have precedents in town for the names of businesses on the sides of buildings, and we have precedents with murals, and I think they both look fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Andrew, you want to start from here?
Ditto what she said. Also too, I mean, that shirt factory, the outlet, I'm a big, I can't believe the number of people I know from out of town that have come to Glens Falls to see the murals, to see the utility boxes painted. You know, it's like we become like a painted lady city, that people are coming to see what all the commotion's about.
Yeah.
So, and I think that one in the shirt factory, I mean, it just, to me, it fits and it flows with the vertical lines of the building. I think it looks great.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. Again, Eric, keep going in the right direction, adding to the city.
Thank you.
It's great, especially the one on the corner, the t-shirt shop, the shirt shop. It should have been there on the It's perfect.
It does, it looks like it looks like it was meant to be there, yeah. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on this application? Any comments online?
Did either of the neighbors comment? I mean, they have their businesses there. I think it looks great.
We didn't receive anything to our office from any neighbors or anything. We received
Okay.
no comment.
Then obviously didn't care to be here. So.
Yeah.
All right, you want to make a motion? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Sign Review, approve the application of Lawrence and Cooper Inc., owner of tax map number 303.17-13-9, commonly known as 2125 Cooper Street, for the sign proposed October 1st, 2024. Second? All approved?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Moving right along, we'll go for the sign board review for the 720 square foot painted mural on the side of the building. Rita, do you have anything else to say in addition to what you said? Okay? Would you like to start?
Again, this is,
This is the big one? The owl? The owl.
oh, yeah. It's big. It certainly sticks out, that's for sure. But it certainly is following what Eric's been trying to do for a long time now. To get people to stop and see and look and understand it. And I think that's what we should achieve so far.
Thank you.
It's nice, it's great.
Thank you. Art?
Again, it's going in the right direction. I think it looks great. I don't have any issues with it. Can't wait to see it done.
Thank you.
David, I have no issues, and I think that one that says the church factory kind of gives that building an identity finally. Because, I mean, everybody in Los Falls knows what it is, but people coming that have never been there before or looking for it,
Right.
it kind of makes it very obvious what it is.
Yep.
I think it looks good.
Thanks.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as a board of sign review, approve the project identified as Lawrence Cooper Inc., owner of tax map number 303.17-13-9, commonly known as 21 to 25 Cooper Street, as proposed at the meeting on October 1st, 2024. Have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Eric, maybe you get together with just a suggestion, get somebody from the city, and we should have a walking map. The businesses, let's say like the Queensberry Hotel and some of the restaurants can hand out to where these murals are. The artists and the owners that are doing this are doing a great job. And it'd be pretty cool if we had something that we could hand out with a location on these.
All right.
You know, it is really truly becoming an asset to our city and a draw.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda is a site plan review for Michael Seville, owner of 1416 Ridge Street, seeking site plan review for opening a romance bookstore. Hi.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. Can we get your name, please, and address for the record?
Mike Seville in 14 Ridge Street, Glens Falls.
Great.
So I guess I'm just asking approval. We would like to do some stuff on the outside. We've done a lot of work on the inside. I know it's been vacant for quite some time. I've done a lot of work on the inside as far as renovations. Nothing super crazy. I have reached out to PJ for any permits or anything required that I might need. Unfortunately, I was not fully prepared to have the photos for outside like I wanted to present to you guys, as far as changing the awning and get that removed and make it black and white to go with the matching pharmacy 518 beauty place. We would like to make everything match, paint the outside to make everything aesthetically pleasing. Prior to starting this business, we did reach out to the community, and there's been a massive amount of the city that is excited to have a bookstore again. We would very much love to have had a normal bookstore, but we would love to open one up in the near future if this becomes successful for us. As far as the books that we plan on selling, it's just your normal old school books, The Great Gatsby, I'm sure you guys are all aware of this, Romeo and Juliet, erotica, but the pretty special books. There's some new authors going out, Sarah J. Maas, The Fourth Wing, limited prints. There's a lot of people who've shown a lot of interest in this, and we plan on bringing a lot of people to the town.
So we have this for the interior, but we've nothing for the exterior.
I know, I unfortunately was.
Well, they're not doing architectural review because they weren't ready.
So they have to set up that different application.
This is strictly site plan, and concept for the facade, but right now they're just gonna replace it with like-in-kind colors and materials, just because the canopy that's currently there is torn up and ratty, and disintegrated. But, in the future, I've advised them that he would need to come back for architectural review
Okay.
if they wanna go that
They're
route.
making other changes.
To make changes to the facade.
Okay, so this is just site plan now.
I believe so.
Okay.
I have no concerns.
Thank you.
I don't either. I think it's gonna be great. It's nice to see another business in there. Your site plan looks very nice.
Thank you so much. We've had a lot of people show a lot of interest. A lot of authors have reached out to my wife in regards to this, and we plan on doing a lot of author signings. We plan on doing events with Adirondack Winery, so we've already done a few collaborations with them. We'd like to be part of the entire town, and we think that the bookstore will be an amazing fit to our amazing city.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
I don't have any concerns. All tree plan.
One quick question.
Absolutely, sir.
I think it looks great. Does that say daybed with sconces?
Since it's not a day bed, it's just like a little reading nook that people can sit down in.
Alright.
2 little reading nooks. You can just sit there.
That's right.
Are you looking for a napping spot?
I mean, while my wife was reading the books.
Well, we do have chairs that you're certainly welcome to hang out in.
All right. Oh, I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on this application? Make a motion.
With respect to seeker, it's a type 2, no further action is required.
Thank you. Then I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant site plan approval for the project identified as Michael Seville, owner of tax map 303.20-30-1, commonly known as 1416 Ridge Street, based upon his site plan application and the review of October 1st, 2024. Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you guys so much. I very much appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Rachel, before we close, I have a question. And I was actually going to ask this of PJ before he left. Is it typical to get renderings at the meeting without getting them ahead of time? Helpful to get them ahead of time, yes. In other words, we were presented stuff today.
Those were applications for sketch plan review.
Okay.
It would not be acceptable if they were
If it were
scheduled for site plans.
Or architecture.
Correct.
It's still nicer to have them ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah, well, because they differed from what we got in the email package.
I thought I only got a partial package.
Yeah.
I really did.
Kind of coming in blind.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have plans to the last one and stuff, but, yeah, they were different, so anyway.
So, yeah, for sketch plan, that's okay.
Sketch
For-
plan review has
Yeah.
been acceptable. For site
Okay.
plan, it would need to be on your agenda.
If it weren't.
If the packet had not been complete, it should not be on the agenda.
Okay, that makes sense. And in Queensbury, you would be let through the door.
Make a motion that we convene the planning board meeting